Part 32. The Fragrance Falls Ninefold. Author, Midday Sunday. Chapter 311. Chapter 311 is the Seven-Star Formation. The Lord of the Twilight Continent ordered some people with God-level cultivation to join forces to trap the Death Mountain with formations and barriers along the isolating power. When the isolating power disappears, those who come out must go through strict tests. Search and interrogate before leaving. At this time, those who arrived with God-level cultivation no longer cared about their own identity and status. They joined forces with each other and each guarded a section to set up barriers and formations to ensure that whoever came out of it must escape from the trap they set. Use the entrance and exit to get in or out, otherwise you'll just be trapped inside. Fortunately, the Death Mountain range that is isolated by unknown forces is only part of it. If the entire mountain range is isolated, no matter how many people they have, they will not be able to surround it with barriers and formations. Xianxia and Xuanhuan had no idea what was happening outside, let alone that the Lord of the Late Continent had surrounded their area. Seeing that the sky was getting dark, they had not yet reached the sacred mountain. But the earthquake gradually stopped. Xuanhuan grabbed Xianxia and said, "It's already dark. Even if we are in danger at this time, we will double our efforts. We will rest for one night and continue on our way at dawn tomorrow morning." Xianxia looked at the mess in front of her and the Death Mountains that were ravaged by the violent storm, and nodded, "Okay. Anyway, the earthquake has stopped." As Xuanhuan said, they continue on their way. When they arrive at the Holy Mountain, it is completely dark and they cannot observe the specific situation of the Holy Mountain. The danger is indeed doubled for them. "Anyway, we have decided to go to Mount Kailash, so we don't miss this one night. You rest, I'll keep watch." Xuanhuan found a relatively clean place and said to Xianxia. Xianxia shook her head. "Although the earthquake has stopped, it does not mean that the danger is gone. We all need to be more vigilant and practice tonight." Xuanhuan did not insist on letting her rest after hearing this. "That's fine." Xuanhuan sat down on the trunk of a thick tree that had fallen to the ground, took out the formation plate and continued to study it. Xianxia did not continue to study Shuyulu, but closed her eyes and began to absorb Wushuan's power. Because Wushuan made a contract with her, she didn't need to let Wushuan come out. She directly absorbed Wushuan's spiritual energy from Pangu space. Wushuan noticed that she was absorbing its spiritual energy, and automatically began to release the spiritual energy for her to absorb. Xianxia did not let Zetian go back to Pangu space, and let him be responsible for guarding outside. If anything happened, Zetian should know before them. Jishan wrapped around Xianxia's arm, motionlessly sensing the surroundings with his spiritual consciousness. People outside Death Mountain became even more curious after the rumbling earthquake sounds inside stopped. What happened inside? The earthquake has stopped. Has the matter been resolved? Some people tried to see if they could get in, but the power of isolation was still there and showed no sign of weakening. They can only continue to wait. As night fell, the Death Mountain became completely quiet, and the rabid monsters and spiritual beasts also quieted down and hid themselves in hiding. If it weren't for the chaos around them, they would have forgotten the devastating earthquake in the Death Mountains. Xianxia and Xuanhuan were busy on their own. The night passed, and there was no danger. It was not until the sky got slightly bright that the two of them stood up at the same time. Xianxia asked how far away the sacred mountain is. "We can get there in about an hour." Zetian made an estimate and said. Xianxia took out some food and said to Xuanhuan, "Eat something before leaving." Xuanhuan took the food, and the two of them looked at the surroundings while eating. At a glance, there are many broken trees. There are not many trees still standing, so the field of vision is broadened. After the two of them had eaten, they continued to lead the way towards the sacred mountain, led by Zetian. An hour later, the vines covering the sky pointed in front and said, Master, that is the sacred mountain. Xianxia looked around. Although it was the first time he saw the sacred mountain, Xianxia felt a little familiar. Although only one of the 7 peaks of the sacred mountain remains. Zhizhikong narrowed his eyes and asked, "Do you feel familiar?" Yanxiang looked at Zhizhihong in surprise, "Do you think it's familiar to you too?" Zhizhidian nodded, "But I am very sure that there is no mountain similar to the sacred mountain in my memory." Yanxiang also said, "I also have a very familiar feeling, but I can't remember where I have seen it. We have just arrived in the higher continent, and it is also our first time in the Death Mountains. We have never seen them before. How come we feel this familiar?" Zhizhihong frowned. "We're here anyway, let's go take a look." "I don't notice any danger," Yanxiang said. Zhizhihong didn't sense any danger, but how could there be no danger in a sacred mountain that could drive so many high-level monsters and spiritual beasts crazy? Unusual. Okay, let's see what secrets the sacred mountain holds. Although he had not suggested taking risks before, Zhizhihong was not a person who was afraid of trouble. The two of them got closer and closer, and they didn't hold on until they reached the foot of the sacred mountain. The vines covering the sky pointed to the place at the foot of the mountain and said, "Those monsters and spiritual beasts are kneeling down here, prostrating themselves on the ground. No monsters or spiritual beasts go up the mountain. Yangxiangluo looks like a sacred mountain. Unlike the trees below that were broken and fallen in various directions, the trees on the mountain were intact. Even the weeds seemed to have never experienced anything and were growing luxuriantly. Hence, the mountains are like two worlds. Master, there were originally 7 peaks, but they all collapsed, leaving only one," Zhetian said while showing only the 2 of them the locations of the 6 collapsed peaks. Yanxiangluo and Zhizhihong looked at each other, and Zhizhihong said, "It is indeed a formation." 7-star array, Yanxiangluo blurted out. Zhizhihong looked at Yanxiangluo with admiring eyes. This girl's formation skills were indeed not low. She actually knew that the 7 peaks were the 7-star formation just by looking at the positions indicated by Zhetian. It seems like things are a bit tricky. Zhizhihong's eyes shrank. Both of them are very accomplished in formations. Since they can see that it is a 7-star formation, they naturally know how powerful the 7-star formation is and what its role is. 7-star formation is a formation that combines defense and attack. The main purpose is to protect, and the attack is also for better protection. From this point, we can see that there must be something inside here that needs to be protected by the 7-star array. It seems that this 7-star formation was set up by taking advantage of the right time and place. The people who set up the formation are not very accomplished in formation techniques. At least neither Yanxiangluo nor Zhizhihong can do it now. After seeing the 7-star formation with their own eyes, both of them knew in their hearts that the death of the more than 300 god-level cultivation masters was not a loss at all. Just because, once the 7-star formation's protective formation is activated, no one present can escape, especially such a high-level 7-star formation. End of this chapter. The Fragrance Falls Ninefold. Author, Midday Sunday. Chapter 312. Chapter 312 True Self. Yanxiangluo and Zhizhihong didn't know how advanced the formation masters of the higher mainland were, but one thing was certain. Even the formation masters with god-level cultivation at that time could not break this 7-star formation, or they could not break it in time. That's why so many people died. The level of the 7-star formation is definitely an existence that even high-level mainlanders are afraid of. Now, 6 of the 7 peaks at the eye of the 7-star formation have collapsed and only one remains. This situation shows that the 7-star formation has been broken for some reasons. They don't know why the 7-star formation broke for no reason, whether it was man-made or there is an unknown reason. But there is still one of the 7 formation eyes, which shows that the protective power of the 7-star formation has not been completely lost. The 7-star formation is different from other formations. The 7 peaks are 7 formation eyes. The 7 formation eyes can also form an independent formation. This is the most frightening part of the 7-star formation. Although there is only one peak left, which is the formation eye, it still has protective capabilities. But this protective strength is only 1/7 left. Although both of them are proficient in formations, they are still unable to determine the level of the 7-star formation in front of them, let alone which one of the remaining formation eyes is. So even though there is only 1/7 of the protective strength left, they dare not underestimate it. What confused them was that yesterday's earthquake in the Death Mountains could almost be described as earth shaking, and there were hardly many trees still standing. But the plants on the sacred mountain were not damaged at all. It was as if yesterday's earthquake had nothing to do with this place. It was abnormal no matter how you looked at it. Yan Xianglou turned to look at Jizhong and saw that his brows were also frowning. She knew that he was also thinking about the 7-star formation. Which one has the remaining protective strength? How strong is it? After a while, Jizhong said to Yan Xianglou, "Wait here while I go up to check." Yan Xianglou stretched out her hand to hold him. "No, I want to go together." Both of them understand the formation, and they both know that if they want to find out the true power of the formation, the only way is to touch the formation and let its power burst out. Coming to the holy mountain was something I had repeatedly asked to come to. There was no reason for Jizhong to go through it when he was in danger. Jizhong knew what Yan Xianglou meant and advised softly, "You know the strength of my formation. The 7-star formation has lost 6/7 of its strength, and the remaining one cannot do anything to me." Yan Xianglou shook her head stubbornly, "My formation level is not low, so you can't fool me. Besides, I'm coming to the sacred mountain, so there's no reason for you to take risks." Jizhong's eyes dimmed. "Do you have to tell me apart so clearly?" Yan Xianglou was stunned for a moment. Seeing the lost emotion in Jizhong's eyes, she pursed her lips and said, "This is not a matter of distinction. I have the absolute ability to protect myself. You should understand me. I am absolutely sure that I can save my life, won't take risks." Jizhong looked into her eyes and said, "Unless you can let me know that you can save your life in any dangerous situation, I will never let you take the risk." His requirements are not high, as long as she can save her life. After all, in unknown dangers, it is good luck to save her life, and injuries may not be avoided. Yan Xianglou was helpless. She had never thought of telling anyone about the existence of Pangu space. Even when she saw her parents in the future, she never thought of telling them, let alone Jizhong. Don't say that she hasn't decided to accept him yet. Even if she accepts him, she is not sure whether she will tell him that she owns Pangu space. It is even more impossible now, even if he is here to accompany him through life and death. At this moment, Yan Xianglou suddenly felt that she was a selfish and indifferent person. Because of this incident, she seemed to see another self, a self that she didn't even know about. She was disgusted by being selfish and indifferent. Why did Jizhong like him so much? Yan Xianglou had to face the reality that she lived in 2 lives until she was 13 years old. At this age, her character had already been developed. If it hadn't been for what happened today, she wouldn't have discovered that there was another self hidden in her heart. She knew that this self was caused by a lack of love and insecurity in her 2 lives. Xuanhuan is in poor health. She has never met her biological parents, and her tribe despises her. Only her grandmother protected her, but she also only protected her until she was 10 years old. In her heart she is the abandoned one. Her parents stayed with her until she was 10 years old. Although she still had the love and affection of her parents before she was 10 years old, her father abandoned her for her mother when she was 10 years old. Although her father made a lot of preparations before leaving and tried his best to ensure that she could grow up safely, she felt in her heart that she was not as important as her mother in her father's heart, and the psychological hurt of being abandoned still existed. The experience of two worlds has made her develop a kind of self-protection in her bones, and she does not trust anyone. She felt that even her biological parents could not love her wholeheartedly, let alone other people who were not related by blood. Zhizhong saw that she was silent and the aura on her body had even become alienated. He sighed and said, "I know that you can't trust me as much as you trust yourself. I also understand that this is related to your life experience. It was the same before, I didn't trust anyone, but after I met you, I was willing to try to trust you, and you have never let me down. I hope you can also try to trust me, and I will definitely not let you down." Yan Xiangluo's heart was deeply touched by his words. She looked at Zhizhong with her apricot eyes, but still didn't say anything because she didn't know what to say. "I am moved, but the self-protection instinct hidden in my bones is not so easy to overcome." Zhizhong pulled her and said, "You don't have to make any decision now. Since neither of us can convince the other, let's go together. It's not a bad idea to live and die together." Yan Xiangluo's eyes suddenly lit up. Life and death were the same. These four simple words knocked on the door of her heart that she didn't know she had closed. Although it hadn't been opened yet, the light was already showing in the door. Yan Xiangluo glanced at the hand held tightly by him and finally made a decision. "Okay, I will also try to trust you. Although I can't trust him right away, I am willing to try to understand him and trust him. This is an opportunity for him and an opportunity for myself." After listening to her words, Zhizhong's eyes burst with indescribable joy. She was finally willing to take a step towards herself. Although it was just a step, in his heart it was the way to get closer to her. "I will never let you down." Zhizhong had a joyful smile that he had never seen before, but his tone was firm. Yan Xiangluo also smiled. "Okay." Although she has never experienced love and does not understand what love is like, it does not mean that she does not yearn for it. End of this chapter. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Fragrance Falls Ninefold. Author, Midday Sunday. Chapter 313. Chapter 313 Bad Feeling. His father loves his mother so much that he is willing to give up his daughter and even his own life, which shows that his father loves his mother to the core and can give up everything to love his mother. Although from a daughter's perspective she complained that her father didn't care about her that much, from a woman's perspective, she still envied her mother for meeting such a lover. If she could have a life and death love that would never leave her, she would still be willing to accept it and give the same amount of affection. She still doesn't know if Zhizhong is the one who gave her such love. She is only 16 years old, and she wants to indulge herself once and pursue a love that she never thought she would have before. Just like the man and woman under the evergreen tree she met in her dream who promised to never leave each other for eternity. If she could have that kind of love, she wouldn't care about the length of her life. Zhizhong didn't know how much her mood had changed, but he was very happy and relieved that she could take the step. At the same time, he also knew that Yan Xiangluo's heart would only be open to him once. If he didn't cherish it, he would never have the chance to enter her heart in this life. Even she would never open her heart to any man again. Since she is willing to bravely take the step for herself, how can I make her regret it? He has held her hand, and he will never let it go in this life. The two held hands and walked towards the sacred mountain without hesitation. A few steps later, they entered the territory of the sacred mountain, and the atmosphere around them changed accordingly. Before, they could clearly smell the smell of soil that had been dug up due to the earthquake, as well as the smell caused by the death of monsters and spiritual beasts. But these smells all disappeared after they stepped into the sacred mountain. All they smelled was the fresh smell of grass and trees, which was so refreshing that it made people forget about the different scenes just a few steps away. Xianxia looked back and was surprised to find that the messy death mountains outside the holy mountain could no longer be seen, as if there was a layer of mist blocking her sight. Xuanhuan also looked back and tested it with his spiritual consciousness. Sure enough, there was an obstacle. They couldn't leave the sacred mountain now, even though it was only a few steps away. A sharp dark light flashed across the phoenix eyes. Why does the scene look so familiar? I just can't remember where I saw it. Xuanhuan was sure that he had never seen the 7-star array before, and this was his first time entering the 7-star array. The inexplicable sense of familiarity made him feel uneasy again and again today, as if something was about to happen. Xianxia raised her eyebrows and asked, "Why does it feel so familiar again?" Xuanhuan's uneasiness became clearer after hearing her words. "I also have a feeling of familiarity. I feel like something is about to happen. Be careful." Xianxia nodded, and the two of them had no choice but to continue walking up the mountain. "Have you noticed that the plants here are not ordinary plants?" Xianxia suddenly asked. Xuanhuan looked around and said, "It's true. The plants we saw when we entered the Death Mountain are different from those here. Do you recognize these plants?" "I don't even know them. There are so many kinds of plants, but there is not a single medicinal plant." Xianxia was curious about what the plants on the sacred mountain were. She knew all kinds of plants, but she didn't recognize any of them. What she didn't say was that even though she didn't recognize them, she still felt inexplicably familiar, as if she had known them before but just couldn't remember them now. Xuanhuan raised his head and looked at the top of the mountain. The sacred mountain is actually not high, only about 100 meters high. The two of them had already walked more than half of the way while talking, and they were about to reach the top of the mountain. And the direction they went up the mountain happened to be the only remaining formation eye of the 7-star array, which was also the direction of the only remaining mountain peak. They reached the bottom of this peak when they reached the top of the mountain. "Are you confident about breaking the 7-star formation?" Xuanhuan suddenly asked. Xianxia shook her head. "I have only seen the 7-star array in the formation chart, and have studied it. I understand the principles of the 7-star array, and have ideas for breaking it, but I have never seen the 7-star array, and I have never tried to break it, so I can't guarantee it. We will definitely be able to break the 7-star formation." Xuanhuan said, "I'm just like you. Now the 7-star formation has been broken for some unknown reason, but it has not been completely broken. The remaining peak belongs to which eye of the 7-star formation? If it were to kill the formation, we may not be sure we can break it," Xianxia said. Although there was a feeling in her heart that she would regret it if she didn't come to the sacred mountain, she never thought of risking her life. It is true that this healthy body is hard to come by. She has experienced the feeling of being unable to do anything with her sick body, so she cherishes her life more than ordinary people. Even during the training, she tried her best not to hurt herself and did not want to let her body suffer any physical harm. But now that Xuanhuan is here, she cannot ignore his life or death in case of danger. She also wants to know, at a time of life and death, which one is more important, her own secret or Xuanhuan's life. "That depends on our luck." Xuanhuan was still unable to determine which formation this peak was. Xianxia was very nervous. She didn't know whether she was afraid of the killing array at Kixing Peak, or whether she was afraid of having to make a choice between the secret and Xuanhuan. Although neither of them felt confident, they did not stop walking towards the mountain. Soon the two of them reached the top of the mountain, the bottom of the only remaining mountain. The mountain peak is very high, straight up and down, like an Optimus Prime. Xianxia regrets not seeing what it looks like when all 7 peaks exist. That is the complete 7-star array. Many formation masters will never encounter one high-level formation like this in their lifetime, but she has encountered 2. The first one was the Junzi formation. She was lucky enough to break through the Junzi formation and get the Junzi sword. The second one is the 7-star formation, which is still a destroyed 7-star formation with only one peak left. However, the 7-star formation and the Gentleman formation are different. The Gentleman's formation tests human nature, and there is no killing formation in it. If you can't break the Gentleman's formation, it won't affect your departure. Although the 7-star formation is mainly for defense, once someone forcibly destroys the formation, each formation is an independent formation, each of which has the ability to kill, among which the killing formation is undoubtedly the most powerful. Therefore, Yan Xianluo prayed in her heart that the remaining one would not be a killing formation. Ji Zhozhong walked around the mountain peak. Although the mountain peak was very high, it did not occupy a large area. It only took a moment to walk around it. The possibility of killing the formation is very high, Ji Zhozhong said based on experience. Yan Xianluo also saw that the killing formation was indeed feasible, or it could be said that it was definitely a killing formation. Ji Zhozhong looked at her and asked, "Want to try?" End of this chapter. The Fragrance Falls Ninefold. Author, Midday Sunday. Chapter 314. Chapter 314 Making a Choice. Whether it is a killing formation can only be determined after trying it, but if you want to try it, you must touch the formation eye. Once the formation eye is touched, it is equivalent to activating the formation. They have no way out. If they want to survive, they must break the formation. Yan Xianluo also hesitated. The inexplicable sense of familiarity in her heart made her want to continue. However, although there was only one formation left in the 7-star formation at this level, it was not something they could challenge with their strength. What to do? Just when Yan Xianluo was hesitating, the only remaining formation eye started to vibrate. So much so that the entire sacred mountain shook, and the tremors became stronger and stronger, no less powerful than the earthquake in the entire Death Mountain yesterday. Ji Zhozhong stretched out his hand to hold Yan Xianluo and blocked her behind him, looking towards the formation with his phoenix eyes. He knew that the formation was activated, and it was definitely a killing formation. Now they only had one way left, which was to break the 7-star formation. Ji Zhozhong didn't know what kind of opportunity there was for Yan Xianluo, but he knew that danger was coming. He clearly felt the strong murderous intent coming towards him, and the coldness that penetrated into his bones made him shiver uncontrollably. The inexplicable feeling of familiarity came again. This murderous intention is getting stronger and stronger, and at the same time, the strong pressure makes Ji Zhozhong's internal organs churn. He endured the discomfort and summoned up his spiritual power to resist. But the other party's pressure is too strong, and it is simply not something he can resist with his current clan-level cultivation. Yan Xianluo did not feel the murderous intention, nor was she suppressed by coercion. Therefore, she did not notice anything wrong with Ji Zhozhong. She watched the unknown plants on the sacred mountain break apart and collapse like the plants in the Death Mountain yesterday. In the blink of an eye, the sacred mountain was also in a mess. Yan Xianluo was very confused. The 7-star formation would only be activated if it was touched or attacked. They didn't attack, so how could the formation be activated? Did they touch the last eye of the 7-star formation when they walked up the sacred mountain? At this moment, she finally noticed something was wrong with Ji Zhozhong, and the hand she held was very strong and still trembling. "What's wrong with you?" Yan Xianluo asked. Ji Zhozhong struggled to say a few words one by one: kill, intention, peace, power, pressure. Yan Xianluo was surprised at the different treatment methods. Why didn't she feel anything? Why does Ji Zhozhong seem like he can't hold on any longer? When Ji Zhozhong saw that everything was normal for Yan Xianluo, he felt relieved. This was Yan Xianluo's opportunity, so he was the only one who was rejected. It was not just as simple as rejection, the formation clearly wanted to kill him. Ji Zhozhong smiled bitterly in his heart. He was willing to live and die with the little girl, but heaven seemed not to give him this opportunity. At the time of life and death, he suddenly realized that he was so possessive of Yan Xiangluo. When he thought that he would be separated from her by life and death, his heart ached like tearing apart, so he held her hand tighter and tighter, as if fate could not separate them. After listening to his words, Yan Xiangluo immediately understood that this was her own opportunity and could only accommodate herself, and Ji Zhozhong would be obliterated. Unexpectedly, what I was worried about before has happened. The formation has been activated and people cannot get out without breaking the formation. The current situation is that Ji Zhozhong has been suppressed and cannot do anything. She may die here in the next moment, even if she can. Breaking the formation also takes time, and Ji Zhozhong obviously can't afford to wait. Therefore, the choice she has never wanted to face has been placed in front of her, and she must make a choice. Ji Zhozhong tried his best to pull her into his arms and hugged her tightly. At this time, he was speechless. He used all his strength to hold her in his arms, thinking that he would live or die with her soon. Apart from each other, tears fell uncontrollably. Yan Xiangluo noticed the moisture on her shoulders, and her heart was shocked. What a waste of energy he had to hug himself just once. It was said that men would not shed tears lightly, let alone everyone in the Tianshan Empire. The awe-inspiring regent Ji Zhozhong actually cried. Is he really that important in his heart? Ji Zhozhong spat out a mouthful of blood, and the arms hugging her lost their strength, and her body slid down. Yan Xiangluo's eyes narrowed. At this time, she knew very well that she didn't want Ji Zhozhong to die. With a thought, she sent Ji Zhozhong into the Pangu space. Ji Zhozhong was lying on the ground in Pangu space, motionless. Yan Xiangluo was very anxious and wanted to go in to check on him, but she found that she could not enter Pangu space. Suddenly she understood that it was the 7-star array that restricted her. What should she do? She used her spiritual sense to perceive. Fortunately, her spiritual sense was still available. She immediately checked to see if Ji Zhozhong was still breathing. Feeling his weak breath, Xiangluo felt relieved. As long as he had a breath, she could save him. Yan Xiangluo immediately took out a recovery pill and fed it to Ji Zhozhong through spiritual control. He vomited blood, which meant that his internal organs were injured. Use restoration pill to heal his internal organs, and other problems can be solved by himself when he wakes up. Sure enough, when Yan Xiangluo felt Ji Zhozhong's body again, his aura became more and more steady and stronger. Ji Zhozhong's life was no longer in danger. Yan Xiangluo was relieved and told Yun Tuan to take care of Ji Zhozhong and let him rest in his room when he woke up. After giving the instructions, he looked at the mountain peak standing in front of him with his apricot eyes. He struck out with a palm, and the spiritual power fell on the mountain peak with a bang, and then the mountain peak broke and collapsed. Since this is her opportunity and there is no murderous intention or pressure on her, then what else is she afraid of? Yan Xiangluo dodged the falling rocks from the collapse of the mountain, and a magical scene happened. Logically speaking, the rocks that fell down from the collapse would be piled on the ground, but all the rocks that fell actually disappeared as soon as they hit the ground, as if they were swallowed up by the earth. How is this going? Yan Xiangluo looked at the ground with no fallen rocks in shock, and the shaking of the entire sacred mountain still did not stop. The location of the mountain peak shook the most. Although the mountain peak was gone now, the ground collapsed downwards. Yan Xiangluo wanted to escape, but a force suddenly pulled her body towards the collapsed place. Just when she was about to fall into the collapsed place, a hole appeared in the collapsed place, and her body fall into the hole. The dark hole filled the air with an aura that felt inexplicably familiar to her. Yan Xiangluo had more and more doubts in her heart. She had just arrived in the higher continent not long ago, so how could she have such a familiar feeling? And it's in a dangerous place like Mount Kailash. What is it that attracts me here? Is it really his chance, as Ji Zhozhong said? No matter how many doubts and puzzlements she had in her heart, she couldn't stop her body from falling into the hole. End of this chapter. The fragrance falls ninefold. Author, Midday Sunday. Chapter 315. Chapter 315 Her Space. At this time, Xuanhuan woke up in Pangu space. As soon as he opened his eyes, he saw the blue sky and the fresh breath around him. He sat up suddenly. Wasn't he dead? Where is this? Turning around, he saw the sky and the clouds. The sky had turned into a miniature state, and the clouds were sitting on the vines covering the sky, looking at Xuanhuan with his dark eyes. Xuanhuan's phoenix eyes shrank, and the sky and clouds were all there, but he was not dead. He stood up, looked around, and immediately saw the jade pond he had gone to buy with Xianxia. The pond is placed under a thick tree, and 3 sets of ponds extend out, forming a unique landscape here. There is something hanging upside down on the branch of the big tree. This thing is dripping water drop by drop. No, the smell of the water is clearly a spiritual spring. He quickly walked over and felt it carefully, and it turned out to be a spiritual spring. Then he saw that Xianxia had no choice but to bargain for the price. The pool as big as the basin was placed just under the thing. There was a piece of jade underneath, which was the first to catch the falling soul. When the spring is full, it overflows into the first pool below. At this time, there is already a thin layer of spiritual spring in the first pool. Xuanhuan looked up. He knew without thinking that this thing should be the treasure of Lingquan that was conceived and raised in the secret realm of Lingquan. He was curious, how did Xianxia get it? Could it be that Lingquan's secret realm was destroyed because this girl took out this treasure? Thinking about it, they didn't have much time to come out of the Lingquan secret realm. It would take 100 years for this thing to drip out of a bowl in the Lingquan secret realm. Why is the output here so high? By the way, where is this? Could this be her secret? The ability to protect herself she mentioned is this portable space that is similar to a small world. She sent herself in at the moment of life and death. Does it mean that he is more important in her heart than her secret? Thinking of this, Xuanhuan laughed beautifully. Jishan looked at Xuanhuan, who was standing there alone and giggling, and said to Yuntuan, "Brother, isn't he stupid?" Yuntuan gave Zetian a white look and said, "No one will be stupid if he is stupid. He is happy." He almost died. Why is he happy? Zetian asked in confusion. Yuntuan looked at Zetian with an idiot look. Of course I am happy to enter the master's Pangu space. This is indeed something we should be happy about, Zetian agreed. In its heart, the master's Pangu space is a unique treasure in the world. No one can enter it yet. Xuanhuan is the first, so he should be happy. Yuntuan is a little worried about his little brother's IQ. He is happy to come into the master's Pangu space because he feels that the master cares about him. That's it. Zetian doesn't know much about human emotions. Although Yunduan has explained it to him, Zetian also has a partial understanding. Xuanhuan wanted to understand Xianxia's current situation with Yuntuan. Unfortunately, Yuntuan couldn't speak, and it wasn't like his spiritual pet couldn't communicate with his spiritual sense. However, it should still be possible to simply convey the meaning. Yuntuan, how is your master? Nod if he's fine, shake your head if he's hurt. The cloud glanced outside the space. At this time, the owner was falling into a black hole. It had not yet reached the bottom, but the owner was not injured, so it nodded. Xuanhuan saw Yuntuan nodding and felt relieved. If she is in danger, tell me quickly. Yuntuan was speechless. What's the point of telling you? This is the master's space. The master just sent you in and didn't give you the right to enter and exit. If the master is in danger, you can't get out. You might as well be like me and Jet. God. Thinking that he had no fighting power against Zetian, it was useless to go out, and he was not much stronger than Xuanhuan, he suddenly became depressed. For the first time, Yuntuan felt that he was useless, and Zetian was not a battle pet. He wondered whether he should find a spiritual pet with strong combat power for his master in the future, so that if the master encounters danger again in the future, he would at least have a spiritual pet. Beasts can help their masters, unlike now they can only watch their masters face unknown dangers alone. Obviously, after Xuanhuan said this, he realized that he couldn't get out at all. Even if he did, it would only be a drag and not help at all, and he was in a bad mood. The cloud jumped on his shoulder, pointing to the place where Xianxia stayed, telling him where to rest. This is what the master ordered. Xuanhuan looked in the direction pointed by Yuntuan and saw Yan Xiangluo's practice room where he had lived on Jiandu Fengshang. It seems that she has already had her space. He walked over quickly and opened the door. The practice room where he had lived for 3 days had changed drastically. Exquisite screens, large comfortable carpets, simple tables and chairs, and around the screen was her bedroom. The bed in the room was exactly the same as the bed he saw in the Long family's house. But he knew that this bed was not the one in her mother's room, but the bed in Xiangluo's house in the Tianshan Empire where she had slept since childhood. The window curtains and the bedding on the bed are all bright red. In fact, it doesn't look like a little girl's bedroom at all, but more like a wedding room. Xuanhuan wondered how much this girl liked red. The clothes she usually wore were all bright red, and even the bedroom was decorated in bright red. Xuanhuan did not go into the bedroom. He just stood at the screen and looked at it, then turned and sat down on the carpet. He cannot enter a girl's boudoir without rules. The injuries to his internal organs had healed. He knew that Yan Xiangluo should have given him the elixir, but because he tried his best to fight against the pressure, especially when he hugged her at the end, his spiritual power was almost exhausted. It's over. Since he can't help her with anything now, he should restore his spiritual power first. He sensed that there was a difference between the aura here and the aura outside. Although he didn't know what the difference was, he felt that the aura here was more suitable for cultivation than the aura outside and was of great benefit to cultivation. Sitting cross-legged on the carpet and starting to recover, Yuntuan lay quietly next to the carpet. The master asked him to take care of him. Although it depends on the situation, he doesn't need to take care of him now, so he has to guard him. This is the master's territory. He is an outsider, so be careful with him. At this time, Yan Xiangluo finally hit the bottom, which was completely different from what she had imagined. She thought it would be dark and gloomy below. But the truth is exactly the opposite. Below is a circular space paved with jade. She is not standing in the middle. The surrounding walls are also made of jade. I don't know what kind of material the jade is made of. It emits a faint light and illuminates the entire space. Yan Xiangluo felt that the restraints on her body were gone, and she could not move even after taking 2 steps. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Fragrance Falls Ninefold. Author, Midday Sunday. Chapter 316. Chapter 316. It's the 5th senior brother. There is nothing empty here, so what are you doing here? Is there anyone there? Yan Xiangluo shouted. Her voice echoed in the space. I thought no one would answer, but an ethereal voice came. There is no human being, but there is one spiritual consciousness. Yan Xiangluo was startled, and someone actually answered her, no, it's not a human being, it's a spiritual consciousness. Following the sound, a ray of light fell, and a figure appeared in front of her in the light. He is a handsome man wearing a snow-white brocade robe. Hey, why do the patterns on this robe look familiar? By the way, the pattern is the same as the pattern on the robe worn by the owner of the copper tower he got in Wanghai Forest, who claims to be his senior brother. You are not my senior brother, are you? Yan Xiangluo asked casually. The man was stunned for a moment, then smiled. Junior sister is still so innocent. How many senior brothers have you met? Yan Xianglou didn't expect that this person was really his senior brother. He thought that his senior brother had said that there were several senior brothers among them, but he didn't specify how many there were. How many senior brothers was this one in front of him? I have met senior brother before, Yan Xianglou sighed. Oh, it's senior brother. Senior brother has the gentlest personality. Why do you still have such an expression? Yan Xianglou was speechless. I don't even know you, but senior brother said that you have a nose and eyes. I can't believe it or not. Now there is another senior brother, and I don't know how to face you. By the way, who are you, my senior brother? The man's mouth twitched. You haven't recovered any memory. Yan Xianglou shrugged. To be honest, I only felt a little bit familiar when I got here, and I have no memory at all. The man looked at him for a moment. Is the injury so serious? Yan Xianglou's apricot eyes changed. What does it mean to be so seriously injured? You weren't injured yourself? The man then said, don't worry. Since you have come to me, it means that it won't be too long before you can recover your memory. I am your fifth senior brother. I have been waiting for you here for a long time. I don't know if you come or not. Can I wait for you? Yan Xianglou inexplicably heard the loneliness in his tone, and his tone became much softer. Are you like the senior brother, unable to be reincarnated and disappear completely? The fifth senior brother nodded. Yes, there are 7 of us senior brothers. You are the youngest among us. We all call you Xiaoqi. Only the senior brother calls you little junior sister. You are also the only woman among our senior brothers. Whether it is master, it's still the case that our brothers and sisters love you so much that they protect you too much and make you too innocent. Only then did Yan Xianglou realize that she had 6 senior brothers in her life that she didn't know about, and they all doted on her. She lacked love and couldn't understand what kind of happiness it was. However, from the tone of the 5th senior brother, it seemed that because they protected themselves so well that they were too innocent, something must have happened. Are the other senior brothers the same as the 5th senior brother and the 1st senior brother? Yan Xianglou didn't know what happened at that time to put the master and senior brothers in such a state. Elder brother told her not to forget their agreement. What agreement was it? The 5th senior brother nodded. We made the decision together, so we are all the same. We all left a spiritual consciousness to meet you, and each has his own mission. Yan Xianglou didn't know what kind of feelings made them actually make this decision. Such a decision. Death in a lifetime may be acceptable. After all, this is reincarnation and no one can avoid it. But complete disappearance means never appearing in any world again. Who is willing to give up? Senior brother asked me not to forget our agreement. 5th senior brother, can you tell me what the agreement is? Yan Xianglou asked. Since what happened cannot be changed, she tried her best to make up for their regrets. If this agreement was their persistence, then if she had the strength to fulfill it, it would be regarded as the end of their friendship as fellow seniors. You can only remember the promise yourself. Now I tell you, you can't do it. On the contrary, it will increase your troubles, affect your state of mind, and is not conducive to your cultivation. The 5th senior brother rejected her. Yan Xianglou was speechless. What kind of agreement was it? So much so that telling her now would affect her state of mind. It doesn't have something to do with the fact that they are all in a state of disbelief, right? 5th senior brother left this spiritual consciousness here just to meet me, right? Yan Xianglou asked, looking at the man in front of her. She knew that there was a time limit for taking photos of spiritual consciousness. Especially for a piece of spiritual consciousness like theirs that was left before their souls flew away, and after an unknown amount of time was consumed, there might not be much time left to talk to themselves. The eldest brother met her to leave his space magic weapon copper tower to her, and the 5th brother definitely didn't just want to meet her. The 5th senior brother looked at her with some sadness. Xiaoqi, Master said before that although you are the youngest and the only woman among us, you are the most resilient one. Along the way of cultivation, your achievements will be great higher than all our brothers. Yan Xiangluo raised her brows. The senior brother also mentioned the master's praise for her. Does the master think so highly of her? The fifth senior brother continued, at that time, the six of us were still very unconvinced. It was not because we were jealous of you, but because we felt that our talents in the test were almost the same. We are men, and as your senior brothers, how could it be possible that we had practiced earlier than you? My cultivation level is lower than yours. Speaking of this, the fifth senior brother looked at her seriously, but what happened later made us know how wise the master is and how good his vision is. Xiaoqi, when you regain your memory in the future, you will remember everything. Don't be sad, this is all of our own free will. The moment we make the decision, we understand the true meaning of cultivation. Yan Xiangluo did not interrupt the fifth senior brother's words, and took his every word into her heart very seriously. Through the fifth senior brother's words, she could guess that their agreement was definitely not a simple matter. Xiaoqi, senior brother, we don't have much time. Let's get down to business quickly. All six of us brothers have their own tasks. The senior brother must have left his magic weapon to you. The fifth senior brother's task is to take your colored glaze. I'll give you the lamp. As for the missions of the other four senior brothers, you will know when you meet them later. The fifth senior brother spoke much faster. Yan Xiangluo knew that her time was indeed running out. Thank you, fifth senior brother. Yan Xiangluo's words were sincere. Although she still doesn't know what price the six senior brothers and master paid for the agreement, she doesn't know yet, and why she is the only one who can be reincarnated, she can imagine that this matter is earth-shattering after all. End of this chapter. The Fragrance Falls Ninefold. Author, Midday Sunday. Chapter 317. Chapter 317, My Own Calamity. Senior Brother 5 smiled. Xiaoqi is still so emotional. Then his smile dimmed again, and he looked at Yan Xiangluo with complicated eyes, and sighed, Xiaoqi, the fifth senior brother knows your feelings for him. Even if you are reincarnated, you still meet again. The previous 5 the senior brother wanted to kill him to prevent him from affecting you again in the future, but you still saved him at the last moment. Even though you have no memory of the past, and your feelings for him are not as deep as before, you still want to save him. He exposed his secret. Xiaoqi, fifth brother can't do anything to him now. You have to walk and choose your own path in the future. As for whether he will still be your disaster in this life, time will prove it. Fifth senior brother only hopes that Xiaoqi can get the life you want in this life. Yan Xiangluo was extremely shocked. She knew exactly who the senior brother was talking about. It's Zhizhikong. Zhizhikong almost lost his life before because of the fifth senior brother. The fifth senior brother really wanted to kill him. It turns out that I had an entanglement with Zhizhikong in his previous life, and he also influenced me and became my disaster. This realization made Yan Xiangluo's heart twitch. How would she face Zhizhikong in the future? The fifth senior brother obviously saw her entanglement. Xiaoqi doesn't have to struggle with this matter. One day you will both get your memories back. At that time, if you look at his choices, you will be able to prove what you have done for him before. Is it worth it? Brother 5 comforted her when he saw her shocked expression. After saying these words, the figure of the fifth senior brother has begun to become illusory. Xiaoqi, the fifth senior brother is really leaving. Yan Xiangluo felt a surge of sadness in her heart and shed tears. Although she still had no memories of the past, it was impossible not to be touched by what her senior brother and fifth senior brother did for her. What kind of feelings was it for them to do for her? To this extent. Xiaoqi, don't cry, fifth senior brother will feel sorry for you. Fifth senior brother prefers to see the little girl who always had a bright smile. There were tears on Yan Xiangluo's face, but she immediately broke into a bright smile. He waved to the fifth senior brother, don't worry, I will definitely fulfill our agreement, and I will definitely be happy in this life. At this moment, Yan Xiangluo made a firm decision in her heart. No matter how difficult their agreement was, she must make it happen, just to live up to the friendship that her master and her senior brothers had for her. Okay, when Xiaoqi sees master in the future, he must tell master that fifth senior brother did not bully you this time, fifth senior brother also said with a smile. As soon as he finished speaking, the elusive fifth senior brother raised his hand, and Yan Xiangluo's body flew upwards. Yan Xiangluo quickly looked down and saw the smiling figure of the fifth senior brother turning into little stars and disappearing. The space where she was standing just now shook, shrunk rapidly, and finally turned into a glass lamp and flew toward her. Yan Xiangluo cried and reached out to take it, but the glazed lamp passed her hand and flew directly into her consciousness. There was a crystal clear glass lamp in her consciousness, but she didn't feel unfamiliar at all. After the glass lamp entered her sea of consciousness, she knew the purpose of this lamp. Is it because this glazed lamp used to be yours? Although she knew the usefulness of the glazed lamp, she was still unable to use it with her current cultivation level. Yan Xiangluo was shocked at what level of cultivation she had in the past, and she actually had such a powerful magic weapon as the glazed lamp. In an instant, his body flew out of the black hole and landed on the sacred mountain. The black hole also disappeared after Yan Xiangluo flew out. The ground was very flat. If the glazed lamp hadn't really existed in her sea of consciousness, she would have doubted whether everything just happened was a dream. But Yan Xiangluo was in a very low mood. This time she saw the fifth senior brother, she felt more deeply than when she saw the senior brother before. When she saw her senior brother, it was like meeting a stranger. Meeting the fifth senior brother this time seemed to touch the feelings buried deep in her soul. She didn't feel strange when she saw fifth senior brother. Since you are so sad this time, how will you feel when you see the other four senior brothers in the future? By the way, there is also the master. The fifth senior brother told her that when she sees the master in the future, she must tell the master that the fifth senior brother did not bully her this time. Yan Xiangluo was silent for a while, then looked up at the sacred mountain. At this time, the sacred mountain was as messy as the death mountain, and the plants she didn't recognize were gone. Xiaoqi, didn't you like these rare herbs grown by the fifth senior brother in the past? You would always steal them quietly. Now the fifth senior brother has given them all to Xiaoqi. The voice of the fifth senior brother rang in her sea of consciousness. Yan Xiangluo was pleasantly surprised to think that the fifth senior brother was still there, and shouted repeatedly, "Fifth senior brother, fifth senior brother." But the fifth senior brother never responded to her. Yan Xiangluo squatted on the ground and cried loudly. Her heart-wrenching cry made the clouds and sky covering the Pangu space feel uncomfortable. Pangu space did not release authority to Jizhong, so he did not know what Yan Xiangluo had experienced, but Pangu space had no restrictions on Yuntuan and Zetian, so they had seen with their own eyes everything that Yan Xiangluo had just experienced. The owner is so sad, and the two hearts are also sad. Yuntuan responded quickly, Master, all the rare and exotic herbs of your fifth senior brother are in the space. As expected, Yan Xiangluo's sad mood was interrupted by Yuntuan's words. She looked into the Pangu space with her spiritual consciousness, and she saw a large area of rare and exotic grasses inside. She didn't even see the end of it. It was on the sacred mountain. Plants growing that she didn't recognize now. Fifth senior brother, don't worry, I will take good care of them, Yu Xiangluo said silently in her heart. Although she still doesn't know what these rare and exotic herbs are, she is not in a hurry and will find out when her memory recovers. There are no plants that do not grow well in Pangu space. Yan Xiangluo is not worried that these plants will not grow well. They will definitely grow better than on the sacred mountain. If it doesn't work, doesn't she still have a spiritual spring? She doesn't believe that they can grow well even if they are watered with spiritual spring water. Yan Xianglego spent some time sorting out her mood. Looking at Jizhong, who was still recovering from cultivation in her room, she felt a little complicated when she thought of what the fifth senior brother said about their previous relationship. Fate is really a magical thing. Now they have no memory of the past, but they met again magically. However, Yan Xianglego didn't plan to tell Jizhong this now. Since sooner or later they would get back their memories, let's wait until that day. Even if Jizhong is told now, both of them have no previous memories and can only make blind guesses, which is meaningless except for adding trouble. End of this chapter. The Fragrance Falls Ninefold. Author, Midday Sunday. Chapter 318. Chapter 318, Flattened. The most important thing at the moment is to work hard to improve her cultivation. Only when she becomes truly strong can she retrieve her past memories as soon as possible and know what her agreement with her senior brothers is. Yan Xianglego, who had calmed down and wanted to understand, looked down the mountain. Such a big movement in the Death Mountains should have attracted the attention of the Sunset Continent and even the entire higher continent. The obstacle in the Death Mountain should have been set up by the fifth senior brother. Now that the fifth brother has disappeared, this obstacle should also have disappeared. Many strong people will inevitably come in to check. The main thing now is to leave the Death Mountain safely. Jizhong's cultivation has not yet recovered, so Yan Xianglego decided to leave the mountains alone. With Pangu space in her hands, she could avoid people coming in to search. She did it as she thought. She changed her clothes and changed her face with Yan Xuanhuan. She was still dressed like a teenager. After all, they had met two bounty hunters before, so they could avoid some unnecessary trouble. Now Yan Xianglego knows that she can't have any luck in the future. One mistake may lead to catastrophe. Doesn't the ending of the Master and Senior Brothers illustrate this point? After getting ready, she called out to Zetian, and asked Zetian to lead the way to the nearest road, and then flew out of the mountains. Although she was flying in the air, she did not exceed the height of the tree to avoid being discovered. With Yuzhishan, a little expert in the forest, she doesn't have to take the wrong path. She is now dressed as a man, and it is inconvenient to turn it into a hairpin and insert it into her bun. It is wrapped around her wrist, like a bracelet carved into a vine, with the sleeves open so that others cannot see it, and it is also convenient for it to be given to her. Yan Xianglego pointed the direction. At this time, the obstacle of the Death Mountain has indeed disappeared. The Lord of the Old Age Continent did not waste a moment and personally led people into search. His goal was clear and he went straight to the direction of the Holy Mountain. And those strong men with God-level cultivation are all rushing towards the direction of the sacred mountain. No matter whether the Lord of the Old Age Continent is willing or not, whoever arrives first at this time has the most advantage, in case the treasure really appears. It's over. Their greed made them all forget that more than 300 God-level experts died fighting for this treasure. God-level experts can teleport. Although the distance and number of teleports are limited, they only need to teleport once to reach the sacred mountain. Hence, those who were cultivating below the level watched the figures disappear in front of their eyes in an instant. No matter how envious and jealous they are, they have no choice but to rush away as soon as possible in their own way. After Yan Xianglego left the sacred mountain, in a moment, figures appeared at the foot of the sacred mountain. The first ones to arrive were all God-level powerhouses. People of other cultivation levels also used their own methods to rush to the sacred mountain as quickly as possible. In a short time, many people gathered at the foot of the sacred mountain. They all used various methods to reach the sacred mountain in an instant, so that Yan Xianglego was perfectly missed from them. Yan Xianglego is still very surprised. Why is no one coming in? It's impossible. But in the forest is the world of Jishan. Jishan learned about the situation of the sacred mountain through the monster plants he met on the road and told Yuan Xiangluo. Yang Xiang understood at the same time. She was also glad that she left quickly enough, otherwise she would have been stuck there. In that case, she could only hide in the space and wait for them to leave before leaving. She couldn't help feeling sorry for the greed of these people. Fortunately, she had taken away the glass lamp, otherwise it would have been another catastrophe that could be recorded in historical records. Thinking that the treasure that had killed more than 300 god-level experts was actually his own glass lamp, Yan Xiangluo didn't know whether to be proud or sad. I am proud that my treasure is so powerful, but I am sad that these people are greedy and ugly. Jishan, let me know if you encounter flying monsters or spiritual beasts on the road. Yan Xiangluo has not forgotten their original intention of entering the Death Mountain, and they are looking for a flying spiritual beast on their way. Master, let me ask you something. Jishan immediately communicated with the nearby demonic plants and asked them to help find if there were any flying demonic beasts and spiritual beasts nearby. Of course, not all kinds were required, as long as they were strong. Those that were too weak would not be useful to the owner. It is best used on spiritual animals. The reason why the monster beast did not become a spiritual beast is that its mind is not firm enough and its nature is greedy and selfish. Spiritual beasts can become spiritual beasts only after passing the test of heaven. Naturally, their conduct is much better than that of monster beasts. Soon the news came from those demonic plants. Jishan happily told Yuan Xiangluo, Master, there is a cliff in front of you. There are 3 flying spirits living there on the cliff. But spiritual beasts are different from demonic beasts. They are very aloof. Not necessarily willing to be a flying mount. Yan Xiangluo said, you lead the way, let's go over and give it a try. No matter how noble the spiritual beasts are, they still have what they need. As long as you can help them when they need it, it is not difficult to tame them and use them as flying mounts. Isn't this the precedent of those monster beasts and spiritual beasts in Hope Sea Forest? Yan Xiangluo was running towards the cliff where the flying spirit beast was, and the Shenshan mountain was also very lively at this time. Those people who were originally guarding outside the Death Mountain all showed their magical powers and arrived at the foot of the sacred mountain. However, when they saw the messy sacred mountain, their eyes were in disbelief. Sacred Mountain is the name in the minds of monsters and spiritual beasts. In the minds of advanced continental people, this mountain is called Xuanhuan Mountain. It got its name because more than 300 powerful men with god-level cultivation died because of robbing the treasures under this mountain. They couldn't believe it because even though more than 300 god-level warriors had died here, the mountain was still lush and green, with many unknown plants growing on it, and it was not affected by the battles of those god-level warriors at all, just like it is like another world that exists independently. But the scene they saw now was exactly the same as that in the Death Mountain. If they were not sure that this was the God's Meteor Mountain, they would have thought they had gone to the wrong place. The god-level experts present used their spiritual senses to investigate. They could not sense the breath of the treasure at all, and knew in their hearts that the treasure had probably been taken away. But some people are still lucky in their hearts. After all, how could a treasure that has not been taken away by more than 300 god-level experts be taken away like this? How come they didn't know that such a figure appeared in the mainland? They are no longer afraid of the Xuanhuan Mountain. Coupled with the attraction of the treasure, they have forgotten their fear. They all used their spiritual power to attack the Xuanhuan Mountain. For a moment, the rocks and soil from the Xuanhuan Mountain were flying. The attacks of so many god-level experts turned the Xuanhuan Mountain upside down in just a moment. You leveled the Xuanhuan Mountain, and in an instant the Xuanhuan Mountain no longer existed. Even so, these people did not give up and continued to dig downward until the location of the Xuanhuan Mountain became a huge pit, and they stopped unwillingly. End of this chapter. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Fragrance Falls Ninefold. Author, Midday Sunday. Chapter 319. Chapter 319 Negotiation Expert. They have already dug it like this, and they haven't noticed the slightest breath of the treasure. Facts have proved that the treasure has indeed been taken away. Everyone looked at the Lord of the Twilight Continent one after another, thinking that all this was not planned by the Lord of the Twilight Continent. He had found the treasure a long time ago and had found a way to get it. Everything in the Death Mountains was just an illusion made by him. After all, none of them had seen the situation in the Death Mountains with their own eyes. Even in that kind of earthquake situation, their god-level experts can do it as long as there are enough people. Once the power of a god-level power comes out, a large area of the plants in the mountain range will be destroyed. Even if two god-level powerhouses fight, a large area of the mountain range will be destroyed. Doesn't the God Meteor Mountain in front of us prove the effect? The biggest suspect now is the game played by the Lord of the Twilight Continent. The Lord of Twilight Continent saw everyone's expressions and naturally understood what they meant, but the treasure was indeed not in his hands and he didn't want to cause any trouble. Even though he is the Lord of the Twilight Continent, he is only a god-level cultivator. The people with god-level cultivation in the entire continent are not just the lords of the continent like them. If he really wants these people to think that the treasure is in his hands, let alone he is dead, and even his family has no days of peace. Therefore, he raised his hand and swore an oath without any explanation, I swear with my soul, the treasures under the Xianxia mountain are not in my hands, and what happened in the Death Mountain is not my fault. Otherwise, my soul will be lost forever. Superborn. A ray of red light fell from the sky and enveloped the Lord of the Twilight Continent, which also represented the establishment of the oath. The doubts in the hearts of those present were eliminated. Since it was not the Lord of the Dusui Continent, they became hopeful again. The oath has been established, which means that the treasure is indeed not in the hands of the Lord of the Sunset Continent, so they still have hope to get the treasure. In this case, please ask the Lord of Dusk to check all the people who leave the Death Mountain. The treasure must not be allowed to escape. The investigation must be carried out strictly, and we must be present. Someone echoed. The Lord of Twilight Continent understands that this situation is no longer something he, the Lord of the continent, can control, and that there are so many god-level strong men present that he cannot handle. Even though there are god-level strong men among his people, his strength is still the disparity is huge. So he immediately ordered to start interrogating all people who came out of the Death Mountain. Fortunately, he had made arrangements beforehand. The Death Mountain was surrounded by water, and it was impossible for anyone in the Death Mountain to get out quietly. Xianxia still didn't know how difficult it was to get out of the Death Mountain. At this time, she stood under the cliff and looked up at the three caves halfway up the cliff. There live the three flying spirit beasts mentioned yesterday. I went up to check them out yesterday. The three spirit beasts have very strong cultivation levels, at least they are not comparable to the cultivation level of Xianxia's own. Zetian is a little worried. How can the master of such a powerful spiritual beast be subdued? Zetiandeo checked and said, Master, the cultivation of these three spirit beasts is that of advanced spirit beasts, and they are all at the peak of advanced levels. It is a bit difficult to conquer them. Xianxia knew that the cultivation level of high-level spirit beasts was equivalent to that of high-level battle pets. Although she had never really seen a battle pet, she only heard the word advanced and knew how strong the cultivation level of the spiritual beasts above was, and these three are still advanced and peak cultivation. She was not worried about not being able to subdue these three spirit beasts. On the contrary, her eyes were burning with light. The strength of the spirit beasts was great, which also meant that their flight speed and duration of flight were also very strong. There are three spirit beasts flying alternately, and with the formation disc, they should be able to reach the border in 2 or 3 days. What's more, she didn't want to use force to solve the problem. She said to Zetian, Go and talk to them. I don't need to sign a contract with them. I just want to negotiate a deal with them. They will send us to the border. What conditions can we offer, as long as I can do it? The leaves on the vine covering the sky are all standing up. How could it forget its master? In Xuanhuan forest, didn't the master just use elixirs to make deals with those monsters and beasts? This method is easy to use in Xuanhuan forest and in the Death Mountains. Naturally it works too. Master, I'll go right away. Negotiation is its specialty, otherwise it would be able to live such a prosperous life in Xuanhuan forest. Yan Xiangloo stood on the cliff and watched Zetian quickly climb towards the cave on the cliff. Now she was used to seeing this scene, a vine climbing quickly on the cliff. Jishan remained connected to Yan Xiangloo's consciousness. Therefore, Yu Xiangloo heard clearly the conversation between Jishan and the three spiritual beasts. Although she could only hear what Jishan said, she could also guess the other party's attitude. Jishan is very smart. It did not persuade them one by one. Instead, it called the three spiritual beasts together and negotiated with them in a condescending manner. Its attitude is to let the three spirit beasts know that although its owner needs flying spirit beasts, they are not required, and it also makes them feel that they have taken advantage of this transaction. And this kind of opportunity to take advantage is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, and it is probably an opportunity that they will never encounter in their lifetime. Jishan knew very well that since the monsters and spiritual beasts in Xuanhuan forest needed elixirs, then the spiritual beasts in the Death Mountains must also need elixirs, but the elixirs needed should be of a higher level. However, in Jishan's heart, its master is a little expert in alchemy. There is no pill that his master cannot refine, and the pills his master refines are all of perfect quality. These spiritual beasts usually can't get even one pill. It's difficult, let alone a high-grade and perfect quality elixir. Jishan often deals with monsters and spirit beasts in Xuanhuan forest. He understands their mentality very well. These monsters and spirit beasts will not care about the benefits that can be obtained easily. Only when there are competitive benefits, they will fight for them more actively. Therefore, Zetian did not say that the master wanted to make a deal with three spiritual beasts, but said that if he needed to, he could just exchange them. At first they were a little annoyed that a spirit plant dared to come up to them and act arrogantly. After hearing what it said, the three flying spirit beasts were immediately interested. Pills were exactly what they needed the most, and this opportunity was so rare that their anger disappeared immediately. But when I heard that there were only two of the three spiritual beasts, none of the three wanted to be the one who was given up. Because not only does this one get no benefit, it also shows that it is the weakest among the three of them. The spirit beasts are very proud and competitive. This is the mentality of each of them. He also heard from Zetian that its owner was a genius alchemist. As long as they needed the elixir, his owner could refine it, and it was of perfect quality. They were immediately tempted, and no one wanted to miss this opportunity. End of this chapter. The Fragrance Falls Ninefold. Author, Midday Sunday. Chapter 320. Chapter 320. The deal is concluded. The next level of advanced spiritual beast is the super spiritual beast, and there are not many super spiritual beasts in the entire advanced continent. Most of the super spirit beasts are spirit beasts contracted by the human race, because if their spirit beasts want to break through to the super level, they cannot do it just by relying on their serious efforts and diligent cultivation. Instead, they need powerful cultivation resources. Unless they themselves you can find enough treasures with sufficient spiritual energy, otherwise it will be difficult to reach the super level. Unlike the spirit beasts contracted by the human race, their owners will also help them buy promotion pills in order to improve their combat effectiveness. Such spiritual beasts are called war beasts by the human race. The three spiritual beasts in front of them have reached the peak of advanced cultivation. They have been worried about being unable to break through to the super level. However, even if they cannot break through to the super level, they are not willing to become the contracted beasts of the human race, become the war pets of the human race, and lose their freedom. The strength gained is meaningless. If the owner of this vine can give them a promotion pill, it will be easy for them to break through to the super level. Although they are spiritual beasts, they have also inquired. The promotion elixir required for their situation is at least a 7th grade elixir, and it requires a lot of precious medicinal materials to be refined. Let's not say whether the owner of this vine is a 7th grade elixir. It is difficult for a high-grade alchemist to collect all the medicinal materials needed to refine the promotion elixir. But none of them are willing to miss the opportunity presented to them, not to mention that one of them will lose this opportunity. Spiritual beasts have very high IQs. They will not choose to kill each other to compete for these two opportunities. Instead, they will negotiate with the owner of the vines to agree to trade with the three of them. The three spirit beasts have always been neighbors and helped each other. Otherwise, they would not have been able to survive until now in the Death Mountains, where the living environment was cruel and the competition for cultivation resources was fierce. They had also cultivated to the peak level of spiritual beasts. They know too well the importance of staying together. Jishan wanted to laugh in his heart, but when communicating with them, he looked embarrassed. I'll discuss it with the master. If the master doesn't agree, we can only find other flying spirit beasts. The three spirit beasts heard that it was not possible. They had already encountered such an opportunity, how could they give it to other flying spirit beasts? There are a huge number of flying spirit beasts in the Death Mountains. Although there are not many with their level of cultivation, it is not impossible to find them. Besides, a flying mount does not necessarily require a flying spirit beast with such a high level of cultivation. There are many flying spirit beasts to choose from. Therefore, they immediately said to Zetian, "Tell your master, we only need 3 7th grade promotion pills. If your master does not have the medicinal materials for refining the 7th grade promotion pills, we can help you find them." Zetian deliberately thought for a while. "Okay, since I met you first, and I am destined to be with you, I will go and have a good talk with my master." Thank you very much. No matter how high the IQs of the three spirit beasts were, they were still limited by the temptation of the promotion pill. In fact, Zetian could directly communicate with Yanxiangluo using his spiritual consciousness, but in order to show off, Zetian went down the cliff and pretended to be communicating with Yanxiangluo. Yanxiangluo felt deeply that Zetian was a little clever person who firmly controlled the initiative in the negotiation. Yanxiangluo talked to Zetian cooperatively for a long time, and then Zetian climbed up to the entrance of the cliff, saying that I tried my best to persuade my master to make a deal with you three. The three spirit beasts thanked Jishan for helping them, completely forgetting that Jishan came to them for this deal. It stands to reason that they are the party that controls the initiative. However, the three spirit beasts are still very cautious. They will not stupidly send people to the border, and then they take away the pills and refuse to give them. They are not working hard for each other in vain. They can't afford to lose that person. So the three flew down the cliff and asked Jishan to communicate with its owner whether the elixir could be given to them first. If you don't feel comfortable giving it to them first, you have to find a way to ensure their interests. Yanxiangluo finally saw three spiritual beasts. They were actually three snow-white eagles. They were the same spiritual beasts as the flying mounts that the master had found for her. However, these three spiritual beasts were larger and higher in cultivation. It's very powerful when it goes up, and its size is much larger than that white eagle. Yanxiangluo was very satisfied with these three flying spiritual beasts. Yanxiangluo understood that they were worried that she would not give them the elixir, so she directly made an oath. When they sent Yanxiangluo and Ji Zhozhong to the border, they would give them 3 7th level promotion elixirs, but did not give them 7. She will not leave when she is promoted to Dan, otherwise she will lose all her cultivation and become an ordinary person who cannot practice. I have to admit that an oath is the most direct way to trust each other. Look, As soon as Yan Xiangleo finished her oath, the expressions of the three spirit beasts became much more relaxed. After the deal was concluded, the three spirit beasts did not forget to ask if there were enough medicinal materials for refining the 7th grade promotion elixir. Yan Xiangleo checked the medicinal materials in her medicine field in the space. There were really 3 missing medicinal materials for refining the promotion pill. 28 kinds of medicinal materials are needed to refine the advancement pill. I have 25 kinds, but 3 are missing, which are ascension fruit, flame grass, and pearl grass. Do you know where these 3 medicinal herbs can be found? The 3 spirit beasts communicated with Jishan, and Jishan relayed their words, Master, they only know where the flame grass is. They have never heard of the living fruit and the pearl grass, let alone what they look like. Yan Xiangleo originally did not expect them to find these 3 medicinal herbs. After all, they are spiritual beasts and cannot refine elixirs. Their understanding of medicinal herbs is not that deep. They knew about the flame grass, which surprised Yan Xiangleo. Where is the flame grass? Yan Xiangleo asked. The 3 said, the flame grass is in a valley not far ahead, but there are dozens of monsters gathered there. They are all fire elements, and they need the fire power released by the flame grass to help them increase the speed of their cultivation. There are more than a dozen monsters there whose cultivation levels are similar to ours, so it's not easy to get the flame grass. Yan Xiangleo felt a little worried when she heard that there were so many monsters. After thinking about it for a while, she came up with an idea, let's go, I have a way to get the flame grass. Zetian does not doubt the strength of his master at all, but the 3 white eagles do not know Yu Xiangleo after all, and are a little worried about whether she can get the flame grass. After all, she looks very young. If she had not made the oath, none of them believed that she had refined a 7th grade elixir. If she died in the hands of those monsters, their hopes would be dashed again. But now they have to try to believe that Yan Xiangleo can do it in order to get the promotion pill. The 3 white eagles had a tacit understanding. They let Yan Xiangleo sit on the back of one of the white eagles, and the 3 white eagles flew towards the valley together. End of this chapter.